people who had considered themselves incels, involuntary celibates, but have since had sex. How do you feel looking back at your previous self? I never really considered myself an incel at the time, mostly because I'd never heard the phrase, but I was very incelly in high school. I was the type of person who would hold a door open and then wonder why girls weren't falling into my lap. Turns out high school me wasn't that attractive, and nice isn't a personality. I fell very much into the Chads and Stacy's frame of mind for a while. A lot of things changed really, but mostly I just grew up. It's a super childish view of things, and just doesn't take into account that the people around you are, well, people. If someone held a door open for you, you wouldn't throw yourself at them. It's about the maturity in relationships. But seriously, fuck high school me, proper cunt. I'm good friends with a guy who used to be a part of a popular incel website, and he used to post on Reddit. That's actually how we met. He is still growing a lot as a person. He was incredibly angry. He blamed being ugly for his failure with women, and nothing anyone said could convince him that it wasn't that. It was that he thought that he would only be happy with a really hot girl. We hung out once and were talking about how he wanted to approach women out with us. We were at a very nice place, and the neighborhood had plenty of high-maintenance women, you know, the kind wearing expensive athleisure, and who spent their entire lives dieting and doing spinning classes. Expensive hair and nails, all that. Women who were really dedicated to looking good. There were also the girls that worked there, and a few other customers about our age. He literally only saw the hot ladies. He was upset they'd never date anyone like him, someone who has pretty much no career ambition, doesn't want to conform by dressing or eating like they do, etc. And the average women in there just weren't women to him. It was really dehumanizing, because I saw him as an equal, and although he was sort of my friend, he didn't see me as human as he saw the hot ladies in Lululemon. He eventually saw a therapist. Actually, a few therapists. It was mostly to tell people he'd done it, but he stuck with it. Saw a few until one worked. And he started working on himself. We texted, emailed, etc. Hung out a few times, but honestly he wasn't working too hard on making friends, because he'd constantly say stuff that was belittling or mean just to hurt me or women in general, because he could. He also had spent too much time in black pill subreddits, because he brought it up on the one time I invited him out with my trivia team. A few months ago, before I had some major health issues and the pandemic kicked off, he got back in touch. He sent me a long email that was actually okay-ish. He had briefly dated a woman, they had slept together, and then he realized he still actually hated women, and her too, because she wasn't living up to his fantasy, and that no one could. He realized he had a lot of conflicting ideas, that women shouldn't depend on men for money, but they also shouldn't be too career-focused, etc. Just a lot of bad stuff all rolled up into one. He had included a bunch of stuff I absolutely hated, like the fact that he still feels that women our age are past their prime and have cellulite. I basically didn't have a ton of energy to reply other than to tell him I hoped he kept working at it and wasn't dating anyone else until he got over actively hating women. I was involuntarily celibate in that I wanted to have sexual relationships, but never met anyone interested. I didn't put any effort in, so it was kinda my fault. My lifestyle just didn't lend itself to meeting people, so it was hard. When I finally did get out there and start having relationships, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I realized that I had previously felt like an incomplete person because of my inability to connect with anyone, and that was holding me back from other things in life. Like I thought nothing else was worth pursuing because I hadn't properly entered adulthood yet. I kinda wish I'd just got on with it and pursued my other interests a bit more. I don't know why I had to wait. maybe it was depression relating to me being lonely. Edit. Thinking about it a bit more, I put off dating for a long time because I thought I had to have my life in order first, which was why I waited until I hit some other life milestones. Once I hit those, I realized I had no excuse and finally started online dating. First one ghosted me, which hit me pretty hard after doing something positive for myself. Second one we really hit it off, and that's when I turned into a different person. It's worth the effort. I think I was maybe just a late bloomer. I had lots of female friends and was a bit picky before it was cool. When I went to uni I realized that rejection wasn't as bad if I could laugh about it with my mates after. When I lost my V, it wasn't the big deal I thought it would be. Once that barrier was broken, though, I really came into my own and never looked back. I had this condition called phimosis, which meant my foreskin didn't retract. So if I had ever tried to have sex, it would have been really painful and probably ripped it. Because of that, I never allowed myself to get into situations that might get sexual, and even though I was purposely avoiding them, part of me still felt like there was nothing to avoid, and no one was interested anyway. When I was 18, for the very first time a girl made it known she was interested in me, but TBH, even if I could have done anything, I wasn't interested in her anyway. 19. I use Tinder for some reason, match a girl, start talking to her, and it's awesome. We really like each other, but I could never arrange to meet up for fear of it turning sexual, and I was too embarrassed to tell anyone my circumstances. Inevitably, she gets bored of nothing happening, moves on, I'm heartbroken. 20. Nothing really happened here. 21. Meet another girl on Tinder. Pretty much the same situation as when I was 19. We like each other, she gets bored, goes for someone else, I'm heartbroken. 23. Me and girl from work start getting close. I get into my first ever relationship with her. A month or so it turns sexual, and I let her know what's going on, and that I need to fix it. She's cool with it. About a year after my initial doctor's appointment, I get a circumcision at 24. 2 months later we lose our virginities to each other. 25. Still with her now. Been just over 2 years.